Hi everyone, we'll just give a minute for people to join before we get started. Hi everyone, we'll get started now as a few more people join us. So good afternoon everyone, and welcome to the webinar today to discuss future foods and precision fermentation for the Australian sugar industry. So this webinar is being held as part of a project managed at Queensland University of Technology with funding from Sugar Research Australia and co-supervision from Jane Trindle at SRA. So I'd like to start today by acknowledging the traditional country from the many places we're dialing in from today. So at QUT and in Brisbane, we acknowledge the Turrbal and the Yugara as the First Nations owners of the lands where the university now stands, and we pay respects to their elders, laws, customs, and creation spirits. So thank you for joining us online today. We'll quickly make everyone aware that the webinar is being recorded and a recording will be made available to all in the next coming days. My name is Madi Smith and I'm leading a project at QUT looking at how the sugar industry can benefit from diversified product streams within the bioeconomy. So for those who don't know, my background is in synthetic biology and I completed a master's degree that was funded by Sugar Research Australia. So that's how my relationship with them began. So before we kick off, I'll invite Professor Ian O'Hara, the Deputy Dean of Faculty of Engineering here at QUT and the Queensland Biofutures Industry Envoy to introduce the theme of today's webinar.
Thanks, Maddie. And I also would like to welcome everyone to this webinar in which we're going to explore what's happening in the exciting field of future foods and precision fermentation and explore opportunities for the sugar industry to participate in this area. So the market for future food ingredients has been growing in recent years, and this includes in areas like plant-based proteins, so think animal-free meat and dairy, and protein ingredients, so flours, concentrates and isolates needed to make plant-based food products. The precision fermentation is the next evolution of the age-old process of brewing beer, yogurt, bread. It's high-tech and can be used to put yeast or fungi to work to produce additional protein foods and food ingredients. There have been several significant investments within Australia that are supporting the development of these future food and precision fermentation markets. These include things like the CSIRO Future Protein Mission, which is aiming to create new protein ingredients and products that support that will earn an additional $10 billion in revenue for Australia by 2030. Large-scale investments through programs like the Food and Beverage Accelerator, a $165 million initiative funded by the Australian Government, Trailblazer Grant and industry. Investments in infrastructure like the $16 million upgrade to the QUT Mackay pilot plant to become a state-of-the-art food-grade compliant facility. And Cauldron firm, who recently completed their initial funding round to accelerate plans to build an industrial-scale hyper-fermentation facility. And we'll hear more about some of those things today. This is clearly an area with significant interest and investment. but how real is the opportunity? And how can the sugar industry realise value from the sector, given the challenges in reaching commercial production? So the sugar industry itself has identified precision fermentation as a key opportunity for the industry in the Sugar Plus roadmap, with the potential to contribute to revenue diversification. Raw sugar will continue to play an important role in food supply in the long term, but sugarcane also has the potential to act as a feedstock for a new generation of food ingredients beyond sugar. So as we get started, let's just sort of have a look at what we know. The global demand for food is growing, with the population predicted to reach 9.7 billion by 2050. And this means we will need to produce more food than ever in a more efficient and sustainable way. Animal agriculture is responsible for up to 15% of global greenhouse gas emissions. And if we can reach a share of, say, 11% of alternate proteins by 2035, that would be equivalent to decarbonising 95% of the aviation fuel industry. In conservative estimates, domestic manufacturing revenue from plant-based products could reach $1.5 billion annually and create more than 2,000 jobs by 2030. The global precision fermentation market is predicted to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 40.5% between 2022 and 2031. So there's a lot going on, a lot of opportunity. So I'm looking forward to the discussion today, and I'll now pass back to Madi to introduce our panellists.
Thanks, Ian. So with that as a starting point for the discussion, I'd like to introduce today's panel. So we have an excellent group of experts who will share with us their perspectives on the future foods and precision fermentation opportunity right now here in Australia, particularly looking at the role the sugar industry can play in this. So the format for the panel today is each panelist will have 5 to 7 minutes for some introductory comments, and that will be followed by a Q&A session. So please feel free to submit a question at any point during today's webinar using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen or top of your screen. So I'll introduce each of the speakers first, and then we'll move through them in turn. So our first panelist today is Kylie Porter. Kylie is the CEO at the Greater Whitsunday Alliance, or known as GW3, and she has a strong connection with the Mackay-Isaac Whitsunday region. And along with her leadership skills as an experienced local, she has invested drive in making the region stronger for generations. In her time at GW3, she has worked to deliver a range of outcomes for the organisation, such as preparing workforces for the future, diversifying the regional economy, and enhancing the regional innovation in the Mackay-Isaac Whitsunday. Our second panellist today is Jim Thader. Jim is the co-founder and CEO at Brew, an animal-free dairy business to company. Jim has over 20 years expertise in fast-moving consumer goods retailing, product development, and food manufacturing. And he has also worked more than 5 years in business turnarounds and restructures. Brew has recently raised $25 million to scale their protein fermentation process, demonstrating the significant growth and potential in the alternative protein sector. Our third panelist today is Michele Stansfield. Michele is the CEO of Cauldron Fermentation, a business supporting the development and manufacture of climate-resilient foods through providing rapid scale-up and construction of multi-million-litre fermentation facilities. Cauldron is leading the charge with the first full-scale food fabrication plant due in 2025, and Michele is working with large industry to best utilise natural research sources and working with research providers to build commercially viable technologies. Our final panelist today is Christopher Downs. Chris is the Director of the Food and Beverage Accelerator at the University of Queensland. The Farber Trailblazer program is part of Australia's $150 million effort to boost the growth and innovation of the food and beverage industry. Chris has more than 30 years of experience in the agri-food industry as a scientist, leader, and an executive. He has previously served as a General Manager for Crop and Food Science at the Queensland Department of Agriculture and Fisheries and led the food program at CSIRO. I'll now pass over to Kylie to introduce herself.
So, thanks so much, Maddie, and thanks, Ian, for the introduction. I love it when people call me an expert and I'm speaking around a synthetic biology or precision fermentation topic, because I certainly don't apply that label to myself. Thank you. My name's Kylie Porter. I'm the CEO of an organisation called Greater Whitsunday Alliance, or GW3 as everyone refers to us. We're an economic development body based in Mackay, but we cover a fairly large region of Queensland. Our primary focus is to think about what our region needs to be in the future, and by the future I use a minimum of 5, 10, even out to 50 years horizon, and what do we need to do today to actually lay the foundations to achieve that different economic future. And I'll go into that in a little bit later. A couple of weeks ago, GW3 and some of our partners released the Greater Whitsunday Biomanufacturing Blueprint 1.0. This is really important. Since we released it, the information is already slightly out of date, because on the day we released it, Mackay had its state development area announced, and the purpose of the state development area is primarily to activate, a biomanufacturing sector here in Queensland and predominantly in our region. So happy for you to click on to the next slide, Maddie. Thank you. So our region, we refer to it as Greater Whitsunday. It's the local government areas of Mackay, Isaac and Whitsunday. Covers an area of around 90,000 square kilometres, fairly big, with a population of only around 186,000 people across that really, really vast footprint. We have around 98,000, jobs. But here's the most astounding piece of the fact that I need to impress on you, is that this region of only 186,000 people produces an economic output to Australian economy of around $65 billion. So you can see that we're an enormously hardworking, heavy-hitting economically region. And one of my challenges is a large percentage of that actually comes from coal mining. So how do we actually transition our economy into the future to make sure that we're less reliant on coal as the global demand and global appetite for coal changes? So that's one of our really big challenges, and that imperative opened the door to what we're talking about today. So next slide. So our blueprint really is about synthesising an extensive body of work that we've completed by key agencies, including GW3, over a number of years. But the genesis of it is really about connecting our legacy skills and expertise that we have in region with new aligned industries. And biomanufacturing, synthetic biology, precision fermentation, biofutures, pick a name, pick a title, kept coming up as being perfectly aligned to our region. So what we did is, whilst it's fantastic that the Queensland Government has a Biofutures roadmap and action plan, we really needed to be able to articulate what our own regional vision and aspirations, were in this space. So the document is going to be delivered across 3 phases, which is attraction, activation, and sustainable operation. We're firmly in the attraction phase right here, right now. Just before all panelists came on the call, we all worked out that, we'll gather again, in early May over in California to be selling what, the potential of biomanufacturing in Australia is. So we all acknowledge that we're firmly in this attraction space, and I need to be banging the Greater Whitsunday region drum loud and hard over the next couple of years to really take advantage of this Australian first mover opportunity. So each phase outlines initiatives, designed to meet those goals, and we're literally working through that, as a bit of a process. So, as I said, we've called it 1.0 because we know that it needs to be updated at regular intervals. I'd love to be updating it in the next couple of months when Cauldron and Michele make an important announcement. I'd love to be updating it if Jim threw us a bone and was able to, also make some great decisions and articulate some great opportunities. which our region could claim as well. So we know that this will be a work in progress. What we know today around this biomanufacturing space is completely different to where we were, say, 2 years ago, and that's going to be the nature of the beast moving forward. Move forward, thanks. So I get asked all the time, why Mackay? Why Mackay? Like, why not the Burdekin? Why not Cairns? Why not Bundy? You know, great, really valid questions. But I can tell you quite simply why Mackay, because since 2016, we've been very focused on this initiative, and we've produced an enormous amount of work, but we've also established what I like to call the coalition of the willing, who stand behind me around realising this ambition or this initiative for our region. So this is not easy, and I think that often regions tend to underestimate the value of ecosystems. And I know that when we talk about ecosystems, it all feels a bit, too cool, a bit hip, a bit funky, black T-shirts, Converse and jeans type with a pinball machine. It's not that. Ecosystems is really about establishing a coalition of the willing, and from many sectors, and line them up to stand shoulder to shoulder with you, so you all push and pull forward in the same direction. So in 2018, we established a leaders group, what we call a leaders group in region. That leaders group drives all of our regional initiatives in this space. I use them as our think tank. They leave their bias and their agendas at the door for every single leaders group meeting, and that's been critical and key. Obviously, we've just released the blueprint a couple of weeks ago, and moving forward, we will continue on, running around, banging at the drum firmly in the attraction space. So that gives you sort of a brief summary about who we are, why we are here, and for other regions, perhaps, on the call today, looking to say, how can they do this here? You just need to start. You need to lead with the evidence. Make sure that you've got the coalition of the willing, but then be prepared to buckle in and commit some time to to achieving this. This is not something that happened to us overnight.
Thanks so much, Kylie. I'll pass on to Jim.
Thanks, Maddie. Thanks, Kylie, and thanks, Ian. I am wearing a black T-shirt, but it's got Eden Brew written on it. So I don't know if that makes me a cool part of the ecosystem, or just that I fluked the colour today. But I will say I am really excited about being part of this ecosystem, because I also do believe that what we are building is world leading. It is right on the bleeding edge of technology, and it's a very big part of how we all need to come together and deliver purpose to feed ourselves sustainably into the future. So it's an awesome time to be coming together to talk about stuff like this. So just really quickly, I've got too many slides and not enough time, so I'll whistle stop through who Eden Brew is. Thank you. So we are a business that has a very ambitious goal, and that is to put dairy at the forefront of global food sustainably. And really what that means is we're building a business to scale and sell consumer products all over the world that deliver an absolutely nature identical dairy sensory experience. We are co-founded by Norco, so we are part of the dairy industry, and this is about augmenting supply and leveraging the industry talent and assets to scale cost effectively to be able to feed this planet sustainably. Next slide. So we've touched on this, so I'll be very quick, but obviously with growing population and also more importantly with diet change, this demand for food is going to grow significantly. We are talking somewhere in the region of 50 to 70% growth in demand for protein, all protein, beef, lamb, chicken, pork, dairy, over the next 30 years. And we just can't double the way we manufacture food at the moment to meet that demand. So this is all about smart and modern and safe ways of making the foods we know, love and trust. Next slide, thank you. As a consumer-focused business, I do like to always talk about the customer. What we know in this space from a dairy perspective is that there is a lot of curious customers who are promiscuous. They try many different types of milks, for example. There are 3 reasons why a customer would avoid dairy: either allergies, primarily to lactose, or concerns about animal welfare, or concerns about the environment. There are 2 main reasons why people do buy dairy, and that is nutrition and sensory. So Eden Brew will make a product that sits right in between plant-based milk and dairy milk, and it meets all 5 reasons: the 2, 4, and the 3 why not. So we're kind of like, you can have your milk and avoid it too. Next slide. And the reason we do this is because we make casein proteins, the predominant proteins found in milk, and we make them nature identical. And then what is really clever is we encourage them to aggregate. They cling on to the nutrition that is found inside milk, and then cling on to each other and form this pretty cool molecule called a casein micelle, just the way it happens inside the cow. That is absolutely fundamental to delivering the sensory and the physiochemical structures of milk. And also, it's nature's way of making a lot of the nutrition in milk bioavailable. So when you drink the milk and you want to digest those proteins, you bring in the nutrition like calcium in a bioavailable way. So we are able to emulate so much of what dairy gives us by our ability to make this micelle. Next slide. And just a very quick illustration of that. Casein proteins in water, quite opaque in bottle 1, and whey proteins in water, again, quite opaque in bottle 3. If you put bottle 1 through our micellerization process, you get something that's already looking like milk. Tip 3 into it, you get bottle 4. Add a little bit of razzmatazz, you've got basically bottle 5. That's our finished product. It's a relatively simple process. We will make our proteins, we will add water and blend into micelles, add the other ingredients, and then Norco will put it down their bottling plant as if it was raw milk collected from a dairy. No change to manufacturing process, no capital required. We're just another customer in their bottling plant. So we are founded by Norco, but we're also founded by CSIRO, where this protein research and micelle research was undergoing for 7 years prior to Eden Brew being founded. And then Main Sequence have been paying for everything until now, so they get to call themselves a founder as well. And we have then, through our Series A process, recruited many different types of investment from all over the world. A good example of whom is Digitalis Ventures from New York, who are actually the corporate VC arm of the Mars family. So we're very well positioned to scale, raise more money, and leverage wonderful businesses like Cauldron, who are going to do all our brewing for us. So that scale up, I say it's solved because Michelle's going to do all the work, and as she's about to tell you, it's really easy. And so what I do is I say, hurry up, Michele, and she brews my proteins for me at a really good cost. I take them and ship them to Norco, where we blend into a product, and then, as described before, they treat it like raw milk. So it goes down the bottling plant, into bottles, into trucks, and out to customers. That is the start of a whole raft of dairy consumer product development. And just think of us a little bit like Coca-Cola. They make their syrup centrally, and then they partner with carbonators all over the world to put the water, the bubbles, and the Coke brand around that product, and then market in their geography. We will brew centrally with Cauldron at scale to get to best cost, and then send those proteins in powdered form to dairy companies all over the world to recombine close to customers and market the Eden Brew milk brand to those customers. So it's very analogous to the way Coke have scaled their business. And once we're set up and running with Norco, it really is copy, paste, copy, paste. So we will launch ice cream very end of next year and follow quickly with milk. And we're launching in the Greater Byron Bay area, which is, well, Lismore and surrounds. Obviously, it's where Norco have rebuilt their state-of-the-art ice cream manufacturing plant. And then our milk will be produced in the Labrador facility in southern Queensland. What's really important here is that we find ways to brew big and brew well. And in so doing, we'll bring our costs down. So this is a techno-economic model which talks about how at the end of next year we will actually be able to make milk at around about $4 a litre, but by the end of the 2020s we'll be making it at about $1.50 a litre. The two levers that really drive that cost down are bigger tanks to brew in, and then more effective fermentation protocols, including how you utilise feedstock to get better conversions into final product. We do this in great part, as I mentioned, to be as sustainable as possible in how we make food. Just a couple of anecdotes for you. It's about 1,000 litres of water to make a litre of milk in the dairy industry. It's about 6,000 litres of water to make a litre of milk in the almond milk industry. It's about 5.7 litres of water to make a litre of Eden Brew milk. No animals involved, no methane, no manure into waterways. It's a very strong ESG, if you like, outcome for making milk this way. And that's Eden Brew. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Jim. I'll pass over to Michele now. Sorry, Michele, we can't hear you.
Think I'd have that under control by now. Hi everyone, Michele Stansfield. I'm CEO and co-founder of Cauldron Molecules. For the number of slides that Jim presented, I have taken slides away from mine, so we'll be very brief. Cauldron Molecules was created out of need. As Ian mentioned before, by 2035, we need to make 22 million tonne of alternative protein. That's a really conservative estimate of where their market's going. And to be able to do that, the world actually needs 180 times the amount of precision fermentation tanks in the world. And when you actually boil that down to something that's tangible for everyone, we need to rebuild the entire brewing industry again. So Cauldron Molecules was created to address that need. And also we have a proprietary technology that allows us to do it 5 times more efficiently than conventional technologies, which ultimately means that we can build smaller, smarter, and more inspired facilities. Our facilities, therefore, can be tacked on to existing agricultural businesses such as sugar mills or a dairy plant, and decentralized around the globe. I'm just trying, my slides are not as makes as much sense as Jim. This is our current factory. So Cauldron has 2 purposes. We need to bridge the gap to 22 million tonnes by 2035, and we need to be able to create protein for $20 a kilo US. Also, what we do is bridge the gap from the laboratory through to the factory. So we do that in consultation and in concert with the QUT biocommodities plant going forward. So what we do is we'll bring a customer like Eden Brew into our factories. We'll prove to them that our manufacturing methodology can be done, and then eventually we'll send them to one of our factories. So what you see on screen here is our current demonstration facility in orange. So that has 2 10,000 litre manufacturing lines. It is actually the largest free access facility south of Bangalore, which is a really weird analogy to draw, but it's a memorable one. So what we do is we bring company in, we'll run our fermenters in Orange, that's in Orange, New South Wales. We will prove to our customer that we can get them $20 a kilo for their proteins, and then we build them or we put them onto one of our facilities. So if you want to go to the next slide, Maddie. So Cauldron will be building many, many large tanks. Our current projection is 10,000 tanks by 2031, 10,000 facilities, sorry, by 2031. How we differentiate from other companies is that we have this technology, as I said, that we can build smaller, smarter, more inspired facility. What we intend to do is co-locate with existing agricultural business. What that allows us is twofold. We can build facilities very quickly because we're already building in high impact industrial areas. And also it also helps us with social license. Like Cauldron are very clear that we are not competitive with conventional agriculture. I'm a dairy farmer, a beef farmer in my spare time, which being a black shirt wearing startup founder, you don't have a lot of it. I thought I'd wear my country shirt today. So what you see here is the results of a pre-feasibility study that we have done in cooperation with the Miles government. So last year we announced alongside Steve, he was actually on the site and was Deputy Premier, that they invested 528,000 towards us working out if there was a economically feasible business that could be built in the Mackay region alongside Cauldron. And everything that's come out of that, we've recently completed. It says that we have a very viable business and that we have room to expand significantly in Mackay region. So what you're seeing on the slide here is an unnamed manufactured sugar miller in the Mackay region, and you'll see in the bottom right corner and in the top picture where our facilities will be co-located potentially with companies such as sugar millers, and lots of little tanks. It's all very exciting. Why the Mackay region? I would say Kylie Porter is the reason we're going to the Mackay region. The region has been absolutely fantastic. The industry has been completely supportive. I've been dipping my toe in Mackay since 2016. I've seen the Queensland Government and the economic development groups build this industry over a very long time, and we've just had to find something that actually works for not just the region, but well, not just for us, but also the region. So we need to have a reason to build a skill set up there. We need the business to actually drive value in the region. And that's what we've been doing for the past 12 months with the Mackay region. And we've had amazing support from the state government and from GW3 to do that. What else do I want to talk about? It's interesting. Yeah, that's my last slide, guys. I'm not as sophisticated as everyone else. It's interesting. You look at a quote from Yannick Olaus from Mackay Sugar, and he said last year how he sees this industry growing is that we've got all of this sugar, and currently we're shipping it around the world, and everyone else in the world is maximizing the value from that sugar. So we're shipping sugar to Brazil so they can make protein, and the opportunity that he sees with this is that we're really driving value add in the regions, and particularly in the Mackay region. And that's the core of what we're doing. We're a regional business. We want to grow in the regions, and we want to grow alongside agribusinesses. So that's what we're doing there. We hope to be able to stand side by side in a couple of months and make announcements about where our first manufacturing facility is. There's a lot of players in this industry, and everyone's being super supportive. So we hope to be able to talk to the sugar milling industry further, or the whole sugar industry. I've learned that you can't say milling, the whole sugar industry moving forward, to realise this dream in the Mackay region. That's all I got.
Thanks so much, Michele. I'll now pass on to the final panelist, Chris.
Thanks, Maddie, and thanks everyone. Great to be with you this afternoon and to have the opportunity to profile Faber. If we go to the next slide, Maddie. Faber is an industry-led performance-based investor. We, as was said earlier, were born out of policy by the federal government and the Department of Education, federal government's Trailblazer program. And the main focus for that investment is to enhance the commercialization of university research. So we like to say Faber's success really is industry success. So we have a range of KPIs. And I'll talk a little bit about what they are, but in total, $165 million portfolio, of which about $50 million is focused on co-investment alongside industry projects to enhance the commercialization outcomes from industry projects. The program is about 4 or 5 years in duration. We're 1 year into the life of Faber already. The KPIs that we're going to be measured about is new ingredients in the marketplace, new food and beverage products in the marketplace, and the new skills and training in the market as well. And we are open to and already working with startups, with SMEs, and with large companies. We are very keen to see how and the ways in which we are applying that investment and this opportunity into the sector. So great to be part of the conversation. Next slide, thanks. We have a range of industry participants engaged in Fava so far. Some of them you'll recognize their logos on the sheet here. Another 15 or more logos, companies that we're working with in our pipeline, and they're not at the stages yet of when we can actually add them to our website. But our industry participants so far, the majority come from outside Queensland, but a lot of them are focused in on Queensland, and more than 5 so far are in the area of precision fermentation, both startups and large companies. And so we're really delighted to be investing in and helping to accelerate the success for those businesses that are working in this space. Next slide tells us a little bit about where we come from. So this program's hosted by the University of Queensland, but it's quite deliberately based across 3 universities, UQ, QUT, and the University of Southern Queensland. It's a welcome collaborative effort, a collaborative approach where we bring integrated teams together to deliver what industry wants and to make investments to try and support and accelerate those things. Next slide. Great leadership team, again, integrated across the 3 universities. So we've got 4 programs, innovation pathways, innovative ingredients, premium foods and beverages, and our training center. And the leadership teams, again, are from across those universities. Again, integration, collaboration, so that we're pulling together in the best way that we possibly can. So the next slide, I'm just going to focus now on 2 of those programs that are most relevant to the opportunity that we're talking about today. And the first up is our Innovation Pathways program. And in that, what we find is that industry is really interested to understand more about consumer and market drivers, the insights that will then help decisions about where investment should be placed in terms of innovation. And so often we're finding companies that are still thinking about how they want to target their innovation efforts and their investments come to us, and we sit down with them and we can access some significant resources that open up what is happening both nationally and internationally in terms of markets in this space. Next slide. And then an example of that, already in December last year, we had a dinner for the executives from the companies that we are working with, and we launched the Global Food and Beverage Trends Report. And that's a huge data set that we can then dissect and open up and provide bespoke reporting through to companies so that they can understand what does this mean for them and their company. More recently, we held a food and artificial intelligence roundtable. We launched that in April. We welcome people reaching out and taking part in that. We've got a range of industry projects underway. We're working with clusters and other incubators and entities around the country as well. We don't want to compete. We don't want to confuse. We're here to add value with the great things that are already happening across Australia's food and bev industry. Next slide. Next slide, thanks, Maddie. And look, quite specifically, our Innovative Ingredients program that is led by Esteban Marcelin, but also co-led by Yelika van der Pol from QUT and by Mark Turner from UQ, work together to lead a program and investments with industry projects that include SMEs, startups, and large companies. And you saw that from our opening slide there in terms of the companies that we're working with. A big focus is around precision fermentation in this program, and we're making investments that supports all of the scales to help open up and support in any way that we can the success of this sector. If we look at the next slide, just a couple of examples. We're making substantial investments across lab, pilot, and commercial scale. We've made substantial investments in key bioreactor infrastructure alongside the NCRIS program to support lab scale understanding on how to optimize strains and how it might actually also be designed to fit feedstocks. We've made $3.9 million investment with QUT in the Mackay pilot plant to speed that towards an opening Ian soon, where it will be focused on working with companies involved in precision fermentation. QUT and governments are making substantial, or have made substantial investments in that facility as well. And already we've got a range of industry projects either approved or now contracted and underway with a focus on precision fermentation. Just yesterday, we had about 80 people in the room with us. We're looking at synthetic biology and the future of food with a particular focus on precision fermentation. And we had representatives from industry, from governments, and from research together going through and understanding what the opportunities and the challenges in this space really are. And we had some great representation from QUT and from industry in the room with us. As Kylie mentioned, we take a Team Queensland approach. We're very happy to be helping and working with, in this case, it was Trade and Investment Queensland, looking at the opportunities to have incoming investment, international profiling of what the opportunity really is in this precision fermentation space. Esteban Marcelin from the Barber program will be with the team at Symbiobita in the US coming up, I think it is in June. So again, we want to take that Team Queensland, Team Australia approach in profiling this opportunity. Next slide. So just let me finish off with what our investment criteria are. We co-invest in new projects with companies new to Faber. We're focused on step change innovations and what that means to those companies, especially if they cannot do it themselves. We invest dollar for dollar cash, and then we recognize in-kind contributions as well. And our focus is not to retain ownership of the IP. The IP is owned by the companies that are co-investing in the project. It's their project, it's their IP, and we don't take an equity position. There's no dilution that goes on in the space with startups. We really do, though, need to show that our investments are delivering benefits to Australia. They're delivering against our KPIs of new food and beverage products and new ingredients in the market and new skills that support this industry, in this case, but wider food and beverage skills development. Thanks. I think that's it. Thank you very much. Great to be with you. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chris. So we'll now move on to the Q&A portion of our webinar. So just a reminder, if you have any questions, to submit them using the question feature. I will have Ian start us off with some questions, firstly around feedstock.
It's on mute.
So sorry about that.
Apologies for that. We'll get there. So we've got about 15 minutes left for questions, and just going to quickly throw some questions to the panel. Firstly to Kylie. So Kylie, Mackay's Whitsundays is a big sugarcane region. What do you see as being sort of the potential? What are the ways in which the sugarcane regions in other regions could also step up and think about sort of the opportunities in the future foods precision fermentation area?
I think one of the reasons why Mackay has emerged as being such a natural fit for this value add space is, believe it or not, weirdly, because of our long connection in mining. So what mining has done has developed this really, really strong skills and expertise base around large pieces of equipment, manufacturing, maintenance, all of those types of componentry. Additionally, we have really quite sophisticated supply chains, but also logistics networks, so roads, rail, ports, all of those types of things. I suppose to other, growing communities across Queensland, it's about focusing on what's strong in your region and not what's wrong in your region, because I think what's ahead of us, as a globe and as a society, is that there's so much potential, and the list of opportunities that every region could be pursuing is so long, incredibly long. You'll never get to the bottom of the list. So what we did was a very, very considered active choice around focusing on our region's strengths and capabilities, and then seeking opportunities which really strongly aligned to those. And there are other regions, which have long sugar legacy sectors as well, but they may not necessarily have the sheer numbers of technicians or trades base that we have in this region, but there will be niche there'll be niche opportunities there that they can absolutely be aligning to and pursuing. That would be my advice. Focus on what's strong, not on what's wrong. So rather than say Mackay's doing this, we need to do exactly what Mackay's doing. Mackay's doing this because it actually fits our skill sets well. You know, what is your skill sets? What can you do to align?
Great. Thanks, Kylie.
Mm-hmm.
So head over to you, Jim. So you're currently bringing your first milk and ice cream products to market. That sounds very tasty. What are you looking for in the way of feedstocks? You're going to need, sugar feedstocks for your process. So how do you sort of look at sugarcane compared to other feedstocks? What are you looking for from feedstock suppliers?
I think, thanks, Ian. I think really it comes down to an abundant source in a very consistent format. The way we take the feedstock and prepare it, if you like, and then put it into the precision fermentation process is very purposeful. And if one batch or one delivery to another was slightly different, then we'd be constantly adjusting or getting suboptimal fermentation outcomes. So I guess the ability to be able to partner upstream, plan for and prepare and then organise really clear, well-spec'd and reliable supply is great, because we could then, whatever that spec is, work with it to ensure it's correctly prepared for our process. That would be the most fundamental way of going about it. Outside of that, there's a lot of work that we can do together to understand how to really drive the yields. So the conversion of the feedstock through the process into the proteins that you're brewing, and getting a greater conversion rate means more protein for the same feedstock, or less feedstock for the amount of protein you need, but ultimately drive the cost down. And outside of labour and energy, our feedstock is the greatest cost. So anything we can do there for efficiency and reliability really helps us.
Great, thanks, Jim. And there's a question come through on the question and answer that's asked, why are you targeting casein as compared to other maybe higher value molecules? Why do you feel you can compete in the sort of the area of casein production?
Yeah, so there are a couple of good questions that have come through in this space. I would just describe caseins made by precision fermentation as second generation, and that's to be very respectful for those who have done an incredible job getting to market first with beta-lactoglobulin and showing us all the way, and how much value can be created by achieving that. But beta-lac is a smaller amino acid chain, and it's a much simpler product to make. And so the high cost is more a function of the more complex challenge of trying to get the fermentation process to achieve a greater amount of protein. Once you work out how to do that, the costs are no different to manufacturing. It's just the challenge of getting your organism that you're working with to be more productive in the first place. There are a lot of businesses like Eden Brew working the casein space that are close to coming to market. And it is, I think, going to be well proven that it is a product that can be made. We certainly can make it, and we won't be the only ones. The key here is that being able to get the caseins to aggregate and form this micelle means that what you do with those caseins is going to be far more authentic to the customer. And that is the key here. The way I see the protein industry at the moment is it's doing a pretty good job of pushing technology into products and then asking customers to buy it because of its purpose, its sustainable positioning. And it's not doing a great job of creating products that people want to buy just because they're really yummy, and it just happens to be made this way. And so with respect, we just need some foodies having a play in this space, and that's my background. So we are going to create products, and those products are going to be products that people buy, and they just happen to be manufactured this way. We're starting with milk and not higher value products because milk is a volume product, and when it works at volume. That gives Michele the confidence to go out and build lots of really large tanks. And a significant part of getting the cost down is doing so at scale. And so we're going to the volume sector of the opportunity first to underwrite the scale, which brings the cost down, and then gets us into many other products that have much higher protein content than milk.
Thanks, Jim. Question from Michele. So again, sort of thinking about the feedstock aspect of your process, you're obviously looking at opportunities in Australia in the first instance, and hopefully in sugarcane regions. But obviously there's a lot of competition internationally in this space, and even some of the questions coming through the Q&A are asking questions around the international competitiveness. Why do we think that Australia might have some unique advantages in sucrose sugarcane? Is that your only feedstock, or do you think there are other advantages that Australia offers in this area?
When it comes to feedstock, we're certainly zeroing in on sucrose, and we're confident that we can translate that into an economic output. And when it comes to our visions in Australia, it's targeted around the sugar industry, the vast volume of sugar, and in the Australian region, like I always say, whenever anyone asks me, Australia has a lot of sugar, it has a lot of water, and it's got a lot of sun. A lot of people don't actually have that ability. What we also have in the region is amazing geopolitical situation where we can actually get the product out of the country into other countries. It's amazing how many customers I speak to say, oh, I'm manufacturing in X country, I can't actually get it out, or I have to pay a 50% tariff to get it out of the country. So we have an interesting geopolitical situation there. We have skilled workforce. Again, I will say it, for every scientist we've just out of the feasibility, I used to say for every scientist we need 10 fitters. Now it looks like for every scientist we need 20 to 30 operators, fitters, or mechanics on our sites. So that's where you look at the METS region, and Mackay in particular, that is hugely translational. I think Australia needs to and has an appetite to transition from mining to dining, and we are looking at playing a huge role in that. When it comes to other feedstocks, we are talking to people who make starch, we're talking to dairy processors, we're talking to a number of people because we need carbon. We're carbon mining. We're just mining it above ground, not below ground. So that's where we're looking to co-locate. But sucrose, and particularly the Greater Whitsunday region, is leading the way in Australia.
Great, thanks, Michele. And Chris, a question for you around the value of the partnerships that you're creating. So obviously you're looking at partnerships between technology providers, feedstock suppliers, consumers and markets. So are you sort of seeing that that partnerships are growing rapidly in this area? And are you seeing that sort of consumers, and maybe some of your trends analysis show that consumers are sort of interested in the type of product that precision fermentation offers?
So let me go, thanks Ian, let me go to the last part of that question first. I think there's and this came through in our Biofutures for Future Foods workshop yesterday. There's tremendous potential with this approach, this technology, and the opportunity is real and people are investing in it. But there's also an important opportunity to spend time talking with consumers and have them understand what this technology is about and what it's not. And to learn from other instances where new technologies were introduced into the food sector about what went well and what didn't go so well, just to make sure that we listen, we learn, and we understand, and we're able to have those conversations that might allay any fears or might actually have consumers understand the true benefits that come from investing in and delivering food and beverage products that are produced in this sort of way. So I think that's really important. I think the other thing that we're really hoping to do out of this, to the feedstock part of the questions that we've had so far, is that Fiber's approach is to work with individual companies, right? So we co-invest alongside a company investment. We're very happy to work in the precision fermentation space, to work with those companies to not only optimize strain development, to get the best yield, to the best productivity, but we're happy to work with those companies around feedstocks as well, and to understand the interplay between feedstock strains and the sort of productivity that they're looking for. So it's a company-focused investment according to what the company wants and needs in terms of getting their products into the market. Because after all, our success is measured by new food and beverage products in the market and new ingredients in the market. But what does it take to get there? But it's on a company by company basis. So hopefully that covers it.
Thanks, Chris. I'm just going to hand back to Maddie. We've got time for one or two more questions, and so we'll just I'll ask Maddie just to pick a couple of last questions for our speakers.
All right, I might pass back over to Kylie quickly. So, Kylie, as you mentioned before, Biofutures is one of GW3's priority areas. So why do you believe this sector in technology has been identified as such an important industry for the future of the Mackay-Isaac-Whitsunday region? And are the regions ready for this industry, or are there going to need to be developments to ready for the opportunity? And just building upon that, what are the critical skills that we're going to need?
I think that Michele, and she just scared the living daylights out of me, that she says that she now needs 20 trades for every scientist, where, 18 months ago, we only needed 7 to 10. So obviously that sits really firmly in our sweet spot. So that's why this, this sector was clearly identified as being a companion industry. As I said, we focused on what our region is very strong at, not what we're wrong at. And then that actually helps us find a bit of a true north, so we're looking at other sectors outside of biomanufacturing, which are also aligned to those skill sets, so it's around using in our belief about the evidence base that was available to us, so around things like skills, expertise, but also feedstock, logistics and supply chains. So that's why biomanufacturing fell, is pretty clear for us as being an aligned sector. Our biggest challenge moving forward is going to be around awareness of this as a sector. So it's very hard working in a space that doesn't yet really exist. So where are my comparison points? Where am I? Oh, this place over here in another part of Australia does it. It's not there, so I say that I'm literally converting people one audience at a time, and I will talk, about the scale of this opportunity, every opportunity, at every invitation that I get, because it is going to take many conversations to be able to take our community on this journey.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thank you so much. Well, it looks like, unfortunately, that's all we're going to have time for today. There was a few questions that we weren't able to get to in the Q&A, but it looks like most of those have been answered live. If you do have any further questions you didn't get answered, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll include my email at the end here. But yeah, that's all we have time for today. So it's been a great conversation. I want to say thanks to each of our panelists, so Kylie, Jim, Michele, and Chris. And thank you for coming to the second webinar of the Bioeconomy and Focus series. The next webinar is going to be held on the 1st of May, so save that date, and we're going to be looking at bioproducts and biopolymers in that talk. So this concludes the webinar. I'd like to thank Ian O'Hara for acting as co-chair for this event, and Jane Trindle for your co-supervision for SRA, from SRA, and for funding this project. And please feel free to contact me at my email address on the bottom of the screen there if you have any further questions. So thank you so much, everyone, for participating today.